Alright, man. Look, I didn't want to make this video. I feel like this is a topic that NASCAR, for the past couple of years, the NASCAR community has talked about it to death in recent years. However, with the Cup race ending on Monday, I feel like now is the right time for me to give my 2 cents, because I have some very interesting things to say about this. NASCAR, NASCAR has always traditionally started their races at noon, 12 p.m. Eastern time, but with the turn of the millennium and NASCAR reaching unprecedented heights in popularity, they started like pushing back the start times for races eventually until like to where we are now, late afternoon. Daytona 500, for example, it starts in the afternoon, like 3 p.m., 4 p.m., and it ends all the way in prime time. And since that's where NASCAR has wagered, that's where the most ratings are. Not only that, so they can also get that West Coast audience that they can get at 12 p.m. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I usually don't have a problem with most NASCAR races starting at 3 p.m. Of course, I would have liked it if it was like just started like a little bit earlier. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't have a problem with NASCAR starting races at 3 p.m. Eastern time on tracks that actually have lights. Dover, on the other hand, is one of those tracks like Pocono, Talladega, Indianapolis, New Hampshire, and all of the road courses, save for the Charlotte Roval. Although I don't know if the Charlotte Roval has lights for night racing, but still, for those tracks that don't have lights, I seriously do not understand why NASCAR is starting these races so damn late. Like, look at this Dover race, for example. Back at 12 p.m., this race at Dover, it could have ended on Sunday if it started out at 12 p.m. Because the skies were clear. Of course, the weather was overcast for Sunday, but it didn't start raining until like 4 in the afternoon, 4 p.m. And then when it started raining, NASCAR decided, they would postpone the race because they wouldn't be able to get that race. They wouldn't be able to even get to halfway with the amount of rain that was falling on the track. All of this could have been avoided if they just started this race 3 hours earlier. And I feel like this is a problem that NASCAR has been having ever since for the past couple of years. And not only that, this is also a problem that NASCAR has been having for a few decades now, that NASCAR, they are a southeastern sport first and foremost. Most of these races like Daytona, Talladega, Atlanta, Charlotte, Martinsville, Charlotte, and the like, all of those races, or at least most of them, they are located in the East Coast. They are in the Southeast. Most of their fan base, they are located in the East Coast, the Southeast. NASCAR, they should be catering to that audience that they already have, instead of alienating it in pursuit of a potential West Coast audience that, it may not work out. We've seen NASCAR do this in the past of, wagering that maybe their loyal fan base, they will always support them no matter what, and because of that, they can just do whatever they want. That's not how it works, man. Fans are not like blindly loyal to you. That's not how it works. And this is honestly the point that I'm getting at, is that, in my opinion, NASCAR is a southeastern sport. They need to stop catering to that West Coast audience, and they should start all Sunday races at 12 p.m. Eastern, like at 12 p.m. Eastern time. If that was like my if that was like up to me, I would start all of the Sunday races at 12 p.m. Eastern time. Like Saturday night races, maybe move a few races over to like Saturday night, because that's another thing. NASCAR needs more Saturday night races. But for the most part, like every race that is on Sunday, move it up to 12 p.m. Now, I know NASCAR for a fact, NASCAR is not going to do that, but if NASCAR is not going to do that, then at the very least do it, like start the races for like tracks that don't have lights, like Dover, New Hampshire, and the like. Start them out a bit earlier, or like 3 hours early if you don't even want to get that crazy, like 2 hours early. That's not too much to ask. If look at this race at Dover. If it started right now, if the race at Dover started right now, then if it started at 12 p.m., then the race could have been ended, could have been over like already, and then Monday we wouldn't be talking about NASCAR racing on Monday. Now, of course, I can already hear some of the people saying that, don't you think that's too early? No one's gonna wake up early on Sunday to watch a NASCAR race at freaking 9 a.m. over in the West Coast. Yeah, and my counter argument to that is, look at the people around you. Tell that to the people who wake up early to watch Formula One races on the other side of the globe. They don't have a problem with that. Why is it a problem when it's NASCAR? Huh? Besides, you will be surprised by the amount of people from the West Coast that they would rather just wake up early to see a NASCAR race at 9 a.m. I know there's some people out there that they would rather sleep in on Sundays, or there's some people that if they wake up early on a Sunday, it's to go to church and stuff like that. But at some point there has to be a compromise, because if NASCAR has most of its loyal fans in the East Coast, then NASCAR should focus on those loyal fans, because keeping your loyal fans happy will attract new fans to the sport. That's just by sheer osmosis. That's just basic marketing. If you keep your loyal fan base happy, new fans will come to you on their own, because those loyal fans will spread the word about your product. If people that aren't into NASCAR, they start seeing like this, all of these arguments on NASCAR Twitter about the start times, they're gonna go like, oh, what's this? NASCAR, they're gonna think that NASCAR is in such a mess, and they won't want to get into the sport. This is why NASCAR has, even today, NASCAR has such a hard time getting back into the national spotlight like it did back in the 90s and the early 2000s. And as a matter of fact, like I said, not all NASCAR fans that live in the West Coast, they share that mindset. They don't care that mindset of they're not gonna wake up early. No, if NASCAR fans, if you give NASCAR fans or fans of any sport a motivation to wake up early to watch your product like Formula One fans do, they're gonna wake up. It doesn't matter if it's a freaking 5 a.m. NASCAR fans on the West Coast, they are not going to care about waking up at 9 a.m. to watch a race. Anyways, and by the time the race is over, it's going to be like 12 p.m., 1 p.m. in the West. You're going to have the whole entire day off for you. I compare that to kids waking up early for, Saturday morning cartoons. For example, when we were kids, you remember, like, we woke up on Saturday mornings, like, watching TV, because this was an era before social media, so what else will we have there? Every time we woke up early, it was turn on the TV and watch those like Saturday morning cartoons. But that's the thing. We had a reason to wake up early. And back then, we woke up early to go to school. On the weekends, we usually didn't wake up early, but we had a reason to. It was cartoons. The same logic applies to those NASCAR fans. If you give them something, if there's a NASCAR race out in the West Coast that starts at 9 a.m., that is like 12 p.m. in the East Coast, if a NASCAR fan that lives in the West Coast sees that the race starts at 9 a.m. and he really likes NASCAR, or they really like NASCAR, then if that's the case, then they're going to do everything in their power to wake up and watch that race and be awake to watch that race. It's not a big deal. Also, not only that, but this is something now straying away from the topic of, West Coast, East Coast, and stuff like that. Dover, the spring race at Dover, or rather the Dover race, because now they only run once at Dover per year. Dover has had a history of rain delays recently, like in the month of May. Not as drastic as Bristol, because, Bristol is a whole other level when it comes to rain delays in the spring. But it's still worth mentioning nonetheless, because if you look at Dover and the history of raining at Dover, you had the You had the 2018 race, which was, rain delay. There was a rain delay in the 2018 race. Then there was 2019. That race was postponed up until Monday. Then 2020, pandemic was going on. There was a lot of, shuffling around with the schedule. And 2021, the race was a bit like overcast towards the end. It felt like it could rain at any moment, but thankfully that race ended. Now, I've also seen a lot of people say, well, why can't NASCAR just install night lights at every track? Because, Dover has flirted with the idea of installing lights for night racing, and this has been going on for like a few decades. That idea has been floating around for several decades now, of Dover, night racing at Dover. And to that I say, if Dover really wanted to hold night racing, they would have already installed night lights by now. If they haven't installed them, it's because there's something that's stopping them. Whether it's the local law, whether it's like them living closer to the that track being located very closely to the the Dover Air Base. Also the fact that the track is kind of close to the city of Dover in Delaware, and the noise complaints may be maybe a little too much for the locals to handle. But my point is, there are simpler and cheaper alternatives that don't involve spending millions of dollars in renovations. Like, if today's race started at noon, this whole like night racing at Dover argument will be a non-conversation. Now, I would love for every track to have lights. Hell, I would love for Talladega to have lights, so we can have some like night racing at Talladega, and we can all say, oh, it's Talladega nights. I would really love that. I would also love to see night racing at Dover. I would love to see how that track will look like at night. But I also understand that not every venue is allowed to hold night racing due to either a local law or statewide laws or some agreement they have. You look at New Hampshire, for example. There is like a mandatory curfew for the local town of Loudon that prevents like any sort of night racing happening like in the vicinity, and that includes New Hampshire Motor Speedway. So they have to live by that rule. Now, whether you agree or disagree with those rules, with the law, it doesn't matter, because the rules are the rules. NASCAR just cannot bend the rules just to appease everyone. There has to be a compromise, like I said. Now, there's a reason why NASCAR would not do this. Would not even entertain the idea of starting races back at 12 p.m. And it's very simple. And it goes beyond the primetime audience, getting the West Coast audience early on, but it's also conflicts with the IndyCar schedule. Because IndyCar, they are looking to expand their schedule to like 20 to 23 races. And they also want noon races as well. Like IndyCar races, they have, as of right now, IndyCar races, they start earlier than the NASCAR races. And NBC, they cover both NASCAR and IndyCar, but here's the catch. NBC covers NASCAR for only the second half of the season, while for IndyCar, they do like the full IndyCar schedule. Even if NASCAR goes to a new network, even if NASCAR they drop NBC and they move over to a new network, like let's say CBS, for example, that same problem will still persist. It's not only conflict of interest, but also NASCAR will now be in direct competition with IndyCar. And not only that, NASCAR executives, they have determined that it's worth the risk of starting the races at noon, because of the starting the races at 3 p.m. because not only because of the West Coast audience that will show up like at 12 p.m. their time, but also because of the potential primetime audience in the East Coast if the race finishes at, let's say, 7 or 8 p.m. like the Daytona 500, for example. The thing is, however, like I said, NASCAR is operating under the assumption that the loyal fans will always watch no matter what. So NASCAR, they feel comfortable with tailoring themselves towards a potential new audience of casual fans that may not work out, because they feel like their loyal fans, they're blindly loyal to them, and that's not true. And again, we have seen NASCAR do this in the past, and it didn't work out very well for them. But anyways, I've said my piece. Again, NASCAR, basically they need to cater to their loyal fans and start like exploring with 12 p.m. Eastern time start times. Think of all of the fans that spend money on tickets. They took their time out of their busy weekend to watch the race, and now they won't even have the chance to watch it because of a postponement that could have been avoided with, proper scheduling. It's gonna be Monday, and sure, I mean, the race at Dover on Monday, it was still a pretty sizable crowd, so they didn't take a big hit as I expected. That was pretty surprising for Dover standards. Like, that race was pretty fun, but for the most part, people are gonna have to go to work. Kids will have to go to school. I know it's the month of May, and like the school year is towards the end, but I can't say the same thing for the parents or for the grown men that actually they don't go to school. They have through that phase in their life, and they actually have jobs, like year-long jobs. So, sadly, this is the reality that we're working with, but sometimes, I would just love it if things were a little bit different.